All right, we've got a really compelling case to dive into today.
Yeah, definitely.
The story of Kaylee Mandati, this 19-year-old Texas college cheerleader.
Right.
And her death has just left a ton of questions unanswered.
Absolutely.
And we've got a whole stack of articles here to help us out.
Yeah.
And a really fascinating episode of the 48 Hours Postmortem podcast.
Yeah, that's a great episode.
To kind of guide our deep dives.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, let's get into it.
let's get into it.
I think what really stood out to me initially was how Kaylee's family
Yeah.
took the pursuit of justice
Okay.
into their own hands.
Okay, so back up for a second.
Yeah.
Because I think, not everybody listening is going to be totally familiar with the details here.
Right.
So Kaylee was found dead.
Yeah.
And her boyfriend at the time, Mark Houghton,
Yeah.
claimed that she had stopped breathing after a night of ecstasy and rough sex.
Right. And that's what he said.
But the medical examiner ruled it a homicide caused by blunt force trauma.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what really
that sets off this whole legal battle.
kicks off this whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he claimed that the bruising was from, like, CPR.
Right.
Or, maybe she fell, but the prosecution argued that he beat her.
Right.
And that ultimately led to her death.
And then the first trial ended with a hung jury.
Yeah.
So they had to go through it all again.
It's crazy.
I can't even imagine, what her family must have been going through during all of this.
I mean, it's got to be just brutal. Yeah.
But you mentioned that they took justice into their own hands.
Yeah.
What did they actually do?
Well, her mother, Allison, is a scientist,
Okay.
and her stepfather, Lawrence, is a NASA engineer.
Wow.
So they took their analytical skills and applied it
Wow.
to this case. I mean, they tracked down and bought Houghton's car
Hold on.
to investigate their theory of what happened to Kaylee.
They bought the car.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's pretty wild.
What were they hoping to find?
Well, it seems they were trying to prove their theory, okay, about how the assault took place.
Okay.
Inside the car, they even went so far as to create a 3D model of Kaylee's head
Wow.
to pinpoint the impact
Okay.
and disprove Houghton's claims.
Okay, now that is some dedication.
Yeah.
Using their professional skills to try to find answers that maybe the official investigation missed.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the podcast really focuses on Houghton's defense attorney, John Hunter.
Right.
And he's got a reputation for
Oh, yeah.
for winning these seemingly impossible cases.
Yeah.
He's known in Texas as, like, a sharp legal mind.
Uh-huh.
And they even bring up this other case where he defended an Air Force Major, Andre McDonald,
Right.
who had actually confessed to killing his wife.
Oh, wow.
And Hunter got him a manslaughter conviction instead of murder,
Oh, wow.
despite the confession.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So I can see why they call him a formidable legal mind.
Yeah.
So how does tactics play out in Kaylee's case? What were some of the key moves in that first trial?
Well, one of the big moments was his cross-examination
Yeah.
of Kaylee's ex-boyfriend, Jet Birch.
Okay.
And Birch had initially told police that he saw Houghton forcing Kaylee into his car that night.
Okay, so that would be pretty damaging testimony.
Yeah, it would have been hugely damaging.
Yeah.
So under Hunter's questioning,
Okay.
it came out that Birch had lied
Oh, wow.
in his original statement to the police.
Uh-huh.
And because Birch was on probation at the time,
Right?
he ended up pleading the fifth
Oh, wow.
repeatedly on the stand.
So instead of helping the prosecution,
Yeah.
he ends up hurting them.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And, for the listener, pleading the fifth in the U.S.
Right.
means you can refuse to answer questions if you think your answer might
Yeah.
incriminate you in a crime.
Yeah.
And it protects people from being forced
Yeah.
to testify against themselves.
Right.
So in this case, Birch was afraid that if he admitted to lying to police,
Yeah.
he would violate his probation.
Oh, okay.
So he was in a tough spot.
Gotcha. So Hunter discredits a key witness for the prosecution.
Right.
What else?
Well, he also brought in this forensic pathologist,
Okay.
William Anderson,
Uh-huh.
and his testimony suggested that some of Kaylee's bruising
Right.
could have been caused by medical intervention.
During the CPR?
Yeah, exactly, like those CPR attempts Houghton was talking about.
Right.
So it cast doubt on that whole argument
Yeah.
from the prosecution that all the bruising was from a beating.
So it sounds like the defense was really focused on just planting these seeds of doubt, just
Yeah.
creating enough uncertainty that they could avoid a guilty verdict.
Right.
Did it work?
Well, in the first trial,
Yeah.
yes, the jury couldn't reach a decision,
Right.
which is why they had the second trial.
Mm-hmm.
But between the trials, something really remarkable happened
Yeah.
with Kaylee's family.
What's that?
Remember they bought Houghton's car?
Oh, yeah, it's hard to forget that.
They went as far as to hire actors
Wow.
to create a video reconstruction of the assault
I'm speechless.
based on their findings
Wow.
with the car
Wow.
and the 3D model of Kaylee's injuries.
That's amazing. And also just heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
imagine doing that.
It's really intense.
Yeah.
And the podcast played this audio clip of Lawrence
Okay.
describing what it was like to actually drive that car.
Oh, wow.
The same car that he believes his stepdaughter was killed in.
Yeah. It was really emotional.
Okay, so let's just take a minute to absorb that, right?
Yeah.
Imagine having the strength to not only conduct your own investigation,
Right.
but to go to those lengths to try to recreate what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that level of grief and determination is just,
It's unbelievable.
it's unbelievable.
It speaks to how much they needed answers.
Yeah.
You know, they needed some kind of understanding in the
Yeah.
face of such a senseless loss.
Right.
You know?
Fully.
So we've got this family, right?
Working almost as a parallel investigation team.
Yeah.
And then we've got this defense attorney known for pulling off these shocking wins.
Right.
What happened when they went back to court for this second trial?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, both sides suggested their strategies
Okay.
a little bit.
Yep.
So the prosecution, they actually added charges beyond just felony murder.
Okay.
They added aggravated assault and criminally negligent homicide.
So they're trying to increase the chances of,
Yeah,
getting some kind of conviction.
exactly.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, spread the net a little wider.
All right.
But the defense chose not to call William Anderson,
Really?
that forensic pathologist, this time around.
Hmm.
So it's possible that the prosecution was just ready to
Right.
counter his testimony more directly.
Right. So it's just like a chess game at this point,
Totally.
Yeah. They're trying to anticipate each other's moves.
Yeah, exactly.
But what about that video reconstruction that Kaylee's family put together? I mean, that seems like that would have been
Yeah,
pretty powerful evidence to present.
you would think so, right?
Yeah.
But get this. The judge ruled that if they introduced the video,
Uh-huh.
they wouldn't be allowed to attend the trial themselves.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because they would be considered witnesses.
So they have to choose between
Yeah.
presenting this evidence or being there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it gets even crazier.
What?
The podcast mentions that they hadn't even seen the completed video themselves until the 48 Hours team screened it for them.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So they're making this decision without even knowing what's in the video.
Right. They don't know what it shows.
That's heartbreaking.
It's intense.
It really is.
It really emphasizes the weight of this case.
Yeah.
You know, the emotional weight for
Yeah.
her family.
Absolutely.
So we've got the stage set for this second trial.
Right.
New charges, adjusted strategies,
Yeah.
a family dealing with these agonizing decisions.
Right.
What was the verdict?
Right.
So the jury found Mark Houghton not guilty of murder.
Oh,
However, they did convict him of aggravated assault,
okay.
and he got the maximum sentence for that charge,
Which is
20 years in prison.
so a mixed bag,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, some measure of justice, but
Right.
certainly not everything that they were hoping for.
Right. And you can hear that in
Yeah.
during the sentencing phase, Lawrence actually directly addressed John Hunter
Wow.
in the courtroom
Uh-huh.
and accused him of lacking moral character
Wow.
because of how he defended Houghton.
I mean, I could only imagine, standing there in the courtroom knowing that this man
Right.
who you believe killed your daughter is going to prison, but not for murder. It's like,
Mhm.
that injustice must just be overwhelming.
And the podcast actually includes a clip of Lawrence's statement.
Oh, wow.
It's super powerful. You can just hear the anger and grief
Yeah.
in his voice.
And the episode also mentions that Hunter, walked out of the courtroom while Lawrence was speaking.
Just adding insult to injury.
Yeah, it just shows you
Yeah,
how much tension there was,
totally.
all the conflict, the different perspectives surrounding this case.
For sure.
On one hand, you've got the family desperately seeking justice for their daughter.
Right.
On the other hand, you've got this defense attorney
Doing his job.
just doing his job,
Yeah.
defending his client to the best of his ability,
Right.
regardless of his personal feelings about the case.
Yeah, it makes you think about the ethics of all of it.
Totally.
Like, where's the line between being a really good lawyer
Right.
and, potentially helping someone get away with something terrible?
It's a tough question,
Yeah.
and there are no easy answers.
Right.
It forces us to think about Like the limits of the legal system.
Yeah.
And how do we balance the truth and a fair trial?
Right. All these competing priorities.
Exactly.
It's complicated.
It is complicated. Yeah. This case really does have it all.
Yeah, it really does.
Dramatic courtroom moments, this family conducting their own investigation.
Yeah.
These really big questions about the justice system. What does it all mean for Kaylee's family, though?
Right.
Like, did those 20 years bring them any sense of closure?
That's something we should explore further.
Okay.
But first, let's step back for a second.
Okay.
And think about this case on a larger scale.
Okay.
What does it say about how we handle cases of domestic violence?
Yeah.
Where the truth is so difficult to uncover.
That's a great point.
Yeah. It's amazing how how Kaylee's family just took it upon themselves to find those answers.
Yeah.
Outside of the traditional legal avenues.
It's really incredible, their dedication to uncovering the truth.
Absolutely.
They weren't content to just sit back and wait for the courts.
To decide,
They were proactive?
They took action.
Yeah.
Buying the car.
Yeah.
Creating that video reconstruction. It's...
it really speaks to, like,
it really does.
a need, to understand.
Yeah.
Like, to have some control
Totally.
in a situation where they probably felt very powerless.
Absolutely, yeah. And it just makes you wonder, like, did their investigation, even though it wasn't, like, presented in court, did it have any influence on the outcome of the case?
Right. Like, did it affect the prosecution's approach?
Yeah. Or even, like, indirectly sway the jury?
You never know.
It's impossible to know, but it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, definitely. Like this idea that justice can extend beyond the courtroom.
Totally. It becomes this parallel thing.
Totally. Driven by the people who are most affected by it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it really makes you question, like, what does justice even mean?
What does it mean? Yeah.
Like, is it about punishment? Is it about finding out the absolute truth?
Right.
Or is it something...
It's got to be more nuanced than that.
More complicated. Like some combination of legal outcomes and, like, personal closure.
Absolutely.
It's
a question you keep asking yourself even after the trial's over.
Yeah, totally. For sure. And,
even after the sentence.
Yeah, and this is something that, like, the 48 Hours team grapples with, too.
Oh, for sure.
In their podcast episode,
Absolutely.
And what I think is so interesting about that episode is they go beyond just, rehashing the facts.
They give you a look behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
To how they made decisions. What their process was. What challenges they faced.
Totally.
It's very human.
Yeah, very real.
Yeah.
Like, when they talk about Peter Van Sant breaking his toe while filming an interview.
I love that detail.
It's such a good detail.
It's like, oh, right.
Yeah.
These journalists.
They're just people. Doing their best.
Yeah. They're doing their best to,
to navigate this really complicated and emotionally charged story.
And it really highlights, the amount of work that goes into these documentaries and podcasts.
Wild, yeah.
I mean, there's a whole team of researchers, producers, editors, correspondents out in the field.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have to make choices.
Yeah.
Just like
the lawyers do.
Exactly, like the lawyers in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Like, what information do we include? What angle do we take?
Right.
How do we structure this narrative?
Yeah.
It all shapes how the audience perceives it.
Totally.
So it's like...
So even in true crime, where you're trying to be objective.
Right. There's that element of subjectivity.
There's always that element of subjectivity.
Sure. Yeah, the way the story's told affects how we understand it.
Right, it totally does.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot.
We have.
The legal battle, the family's investigation, the role of the media, all the ethical questions.
Yep.
I think it's time to bring it back to you, the listener.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your takeaways?
What are your takeaways from this whole thing?
From this deep dive.
What resonates with you?
Yeah, what resonates the most?
Is it the family's pursuit of justice?
Yeah.
The complexity of the legal system, the ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the larger issue of how we deal with domestic violence.
Right. Right.
As a society.
Absolutely.
I don't know. This case really
does.
It doesn't offer easy answers.
No.
But it gives you a lot to think about.
For sure.
It challenges you to examine your own beliefs.
Yeah.
About justice and truth and accountability.
It reminds us that, this is about people.
It's about people, yeah.
At the end of the day,
their choices, their relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
The lasting impact they have on each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Kaylee Mandati case, we really encourage you, the listener, to keep those human elements in mind.
Absolutely.
Consider the ripple effects, the questions that it raises, the conversations that it sparks.
Absolutely. And remember Kaylee, remember her family and that search for justice that continues to shape their lives.
Absolutely.
And the lives of everyone who's been touched by this case.
This deep dive, hopefully serves as a catalyst for your own reflections.
On the complexity of truth. And justice.
Yes. Absolutely. And the pursuit of both.
Yeah.
When the answers are hard to find.
It's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
So
thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
And we hope
this has left you with a deeper understanding
of the case.
Of this case and all the layers to it.
And all the layers. Yeah. So until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring,
and
keep seeking those deeper insights.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That help us understand the world around us.
Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, that's it for today.
Yeah, we'll talk to you later.